Okay, good morning, everybody. As we go to the Chitas of today, we're holding the sixth reading in the portion of Kiseitse. We're holding on chapter 24, verse number 5. Yikach ish isha. A man marries a woman. Kadosh marries a new woman. He's not allowed to go out into the army. And he shall not be subject to anything associated with war. Naki yeh. He should stay home, should remain free to be home. Shana achas, for the first year of marriage. V'simach es ishtay, and he should make happy his wife, ashalakach, which he took. So Rashi says chadosha. What means meaning a new wife? What's a new wife? New wife, Rashi says, means one who's new to him. Even if she's a widow, meaning she previously married somebody else, but this excludes a man who marries his divorcee. So it means he marries a wife. To him, it's the first time getting married to her. If he remarried his own divorced wife, that's not considered by him a new marriage. Love initially pass over him, referring to the order of the army. The whole dava is required for army. For instance, he must not supply the water, the food, repair the roads for the army. Not only he doesn't have to be in combat, he doesn't have to be in anything involved with the army. However, men who return from the battlefield by the order of the Kohen, because they need to build a house, in order to dedicate it, as was mentioned before, with the Kohen God, with the Kohen Meshua, would make an announcement. All those that don't have to go to war, those, even though they didn't go to war, they didn't go home. They did the other duties of the war. They were cooks, they supplied waters, they repaired the roads. So they didn't go out to actual war, but they did still being they still weren't part of the war. Yila Beisei, he shall remain free for his home, literally for his house, meaning also for his house. If he built a new house and dedicated it, if he planted a vineyard and redeemed it, he just began to partake in the fruits of the 4 years by redeeming them and eating their value to Jerusalem. He does not move from his house for the needs of war. The Beisai, this refers to his house, as explained above. Yeh must remain. This comes to include his vineyard, as explained above. V'simach, the word es ishtay, v'simach es ishtay, can mean with, or can introduce the direct object, namely his wife. Thus the phrase can either mean he shall rejoice with his wife, or it can mean he shall delight his wife. So either it's like a concept of he's together with it and his family, or he has an obligation to make his wife happy. Rashi decides it means he shall delight with his wife, delight his wife. The verb, it's intensive causative. Thus, it's a correct rendering. It appears in the Tiger. He shall make his wife happy. One who renders he shall rejoice with his wife is mistaken, Rashi says, but this is a translation by V'simach, but translate V'samach. So the V'simach, he makes somebody else happy, or V'samach, he make yourself happy with somebody else. So Rashi translates with V'simach, you're obligated to make your wife happy. That's why, therefore, as if the concept of kollels, as you're going to soon see the next verse, that he goes, he learns a kollel. That's where came the concept of learning a kollel after you get married for a year, 2. Shall not take the upper millstone as a security for a loan. He nefesh u'chaylo, because he's taking a life in security. Well, that means if a creditor comes to the court to demand security for a debt for which no security has previously been required, he will not take as a security to be used the preparation of food. The Chaim is the lower millstone, Venechav is the upper millstone. He can't take these things as security when somebody needs it for his survival. Some chant that they shouldn't, that the husband, the first year of marriage, should not go to work. He should go to kollel. He should learn so he can make his wife happy and be there for his wife. He goes to work in the first year of marriage. It will be hard for him to make his wife happy. Imotzi is going nefesh ma'achav is if a man discovered kidnapping any person from amongst your brothers. They saw for the children of Israel, and he treats him as a slave, and he sells him. Human traffickers, that person should be put to death. You should eradicate evil from your midst. Maybe this would stop human trafficking around the world, even right here in America. So we talk about that there's witnesses and there's a forewarning. And whatever it says, if you find somebody, discover such a person in your midst, is talking with his witnesses. The interpretation is not liable to death penalty unless he uses his victim as a slave. Verse number 8. Be cautioned with regard to the lesions of tzaras. Lishmer, to be very careful. And to do everything that the Kehanim, the priests, tell you to do when you get tzaras. Like I commanded them. Tishmeru, you should watch. Last is to do. Rashi says, what it means be cautious regarding the lesions of tzeras, leprosy, spiritual leprosy, that they do not remove any signs of uncleanliness by peeling off the skin, and that you do not cut off the beheaders, the bright spots. A person might say, I'm going to go and take off these parts of my skin, not to before I come to the kohen. Shouldn't do such kind of things. Rashi says, whenever to quarantine a person with tzaras, or to make him decisive this guy has a tzaras, or whenever to keep him clean, whatever the Kehanim tell you to do, that's what you should do. Verse number 9. Remember what God did to Miriam. In the way, in the way when he went out of Egypt. Rashi says, Rashi continues over here. If you wish to take precautions against stricken of tzaras, then the best way to do that is do not speak lashon hara. Do not slander or say derogatory remarks. Remember what was done to Miriam, who spoke against her brother Moshe Rabbeinu, and was stricken with tzaras. So remember why tzaras comes to the world. Verse number 10. When you lend your fellow any item, do not come to his house. To take the security. She says, when you lend your fellow, literally when you obligate your friend. Masas me'uma means any item, a debt involving anything. You're not allowed, you shouldn't come to his home and demand things from it. You should stand outside. And the man whom you extended the loan, will bring out the collateral outside. And if he's a poor man and he gives you collateral, not collateral, he gives you a guarantor, he gives you an object to you that you're gonna hold for the loan. So Rashi says, do not sleep in this with this security. So Rashi, you should not lie down to sleep while you have the security in your possession. You have to make sure to give it back to him. You shall return the security to him by sunset. So he will be able to go to sleep in his garment. And God will bless you. So be a charity to you before God your God. Rashi says, if it's a garment worn at night, and if it's a garment worn by day, return it in the morning. So if it's at night, you return it at night. If it's a morning garment, return it in the morning. This has already been written in the Parsha of Mishpatim. So really, this has already been written in that Parsha. This is already written about Mishpatim, where the verse says, until sunset you shall return it to him. Meaning that you shall return it to him an entire day, for an entire day. When sunset, you may take it back. So it's a daytime garment. You give it to him until sunset, and then he returns it back to you. If it's a nighttime garment, you give it to him until the night, and then you return it to him. And the Eibishter will bless you. And if he does not bless you, it's nevertheless counted to be a merit. So it'll always be a merit for you. And that completes Chumash of the day. Now go to the Tanya of the day. Alter Rebbe is in the middle of we're finishing the middle of the letter 14. And we're going to finish here the 14th letter of the Alter Rebbe. And the Alter Rebbe is explaining what happens on Rosh Hashanah. Since the life-giving light that issues from the Supreme Chachma is infinite, it follows that whenever the intensity of the light goes down in a previous year, it is still possible that a greater degree of light can be drawn down in the new year. Since the light, the new energy of the year comes from the Chachma of the Eibishter, from the wisdom of God, so therefore it can be able to have a new wisdom every year. There's no limit to wisdom. So that's why the new year is a total new light. It's not a continuation. It's not a continuation of last year. It's a total Chadash, a total new light. And every year it descends Umeir and radiates Mechachmei love and the wisdom of God. Chadash u'Mechudash. A new and renewed light, which has never yet shone in the world. This is a new light that has never ever been in the world. From the Supreme Chachma to the Eretz Elyoina, this never shone in the world of Malchus, which Malchus, we explained many times, is a source of all worlds, the entire world. Sun, the light that reaches down from this level, is here described as new and renewed. For in the first instance, the new light radiates into Chachma, from Oid Ein Sof, that's number one. It comes from the wisdom of God, which is infinite, and then the life comes from Chachma, from wisdom. It ultimately comes into Malchus, in the attribute of kingship of the world of Atzilus, which is called in Kabbalah the Eretz Elyoina, the upper land of Israel. Called Shana V'Shana, because what happens every year, what happens on Erev Rosh Hashanah every year, make sure this Rosh Hashanah, Sunday, the Sunday of Erev Rosh Hashanah, what happens is Mistalik L'Sharish B'Chol Erev Rosh Hashanah. The source of this year will go up, transcend the world, will go up, ascend away from the world. And this light will go up to its source. When the moon is covered, Rosh Hashanah is known as the holiday when the moon is covered and it is not seen. In a spiritual context, this means the spheres of Malchus, represented with Kabbalah by the moon, because it's the receiver. Malchus is the ultimate receiver, like the moon. The light that animates the worlds and created being is concealed and withdrawn to its source. So what happens is the light of the previous year ascends, returns to its source, goes back to its source. What happens? Then, so really, from Ma'ariv the night before, Ma'ariv of Erev Rosh Hashanah, the world, the light ascends to its previous source, and now the waits for the blowing of the shofar that happens next day. And then through the next morning, the blowing of the shofar. Tefillah in the prayers that we do on Rosh Hashanah. Nimshach Chadash Elyon. This elicits a new light, superior light, a new superior light that's never been in the world. All comes from the supreme Chachma Chachmeilah. It all comes from the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A new light comes to the world. To radiate and it's the upper worlds and those who dwell upon it. Meaning the higher and the lower worlds have received their vitality from that chachma and that wisdom. Which self-understood means from the light of the infinite light of God. The chachmas lushbei, which is invested itself in the attribute of wisdom. As it's written, for with you in the source of life, in your light shall we see light. What is the meaning? Supreme Chachma, which is the source of light, is with you because it's nullified and unified. Chachma is always nullified and unified with Ein Sof, with infinity, in your light. Meaning in the light that radiates from Chachma to the higher land, we shall see light. Meaning in the light that descends from the higher land and illuminates all created beings, which receive their vitality from it. That's where we receive our light. That's where we receive our vitality. We receive we want, or at least we want to receive our vitality from the light of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, straight from the energy of God. This refers to the light that radiates from the supreme Chachma, the source of life. And as is known to the scholars of the hidden wisdom, all the Kabbalistic scholars, all of us over here, and every Rosh Hashanah, the Nesira takes place, this hiddenness takes place. And the new year receives, the Spheres of Malchus receives a new, more sublime, and so on. So this is a Kabbalistic theme regarding the rebuilding of the Spheres of Malchus, which takes place every Rosh Hashanah. That's why, again, HaMelech, the importance of Malchus on Rosh Hashanah. Hamlichuni Aleichem, one of the most important principles of Rosh Hashanah is crowning Malchus, is crowning God as king over us. Which starts off right away in the davening. The chazan screams out, HaMelech, the king. And the whole concept of Malchios, the concept of kingship. And how do we crown God as a king? By shofar, by blowing, one of the ways is by blowing the shofar. And self-understood, through our prayers, which in our prayers, we crown God as the king. Kabbalah explains that Adam is a terrestrial echo of the supernal man, meaning the bracket of the spirit known as the collected as Zah, which is Zayd Antu in the world of Atzilus. Zah is the 7 emotions in the world of Atzilus. Slumber alludes to the withdrawal of the supernal intellect attributes or Meichin from Zah. That's what man intellect withdraws during sleep. So that's why Chassidus Kabbalah explained that on the night of Rosh Hashanah, Eve of Rosh Hashanah, first night, the world goes into a slumber. The world goes into a slumber. That's the most important time of Rosh Hashanah. It's from the evening service till the next morning service. That's when the world goes into a slumber. Everything is judged. Once we go through the first day of Rosh Hashanah, Yom HaDin is officially over. That's why the Chazal say that it's really a Yom HaRichter. The 2 days are called like one day. But really the first day of Rosh Hashanah is when it all happens. But everything's happening at the night before the blowing of the shofar. That's when everything is happening. The world goes into a slumber. It's a critical time for everybody and everything. But Rosh Hashanah Yekasevu, when we say the expression on Rosh Hashanah, it's written, that happens that time. That's the critical time. That's why sages brought down the Gemara and brought down many places how people were very careful with that time. Well, up all night, they said Tillim, extremely careful with the timing of leaving the last year. When we finished Ma'ariv, the Ma'ariv of Erev Rosh Hashanah, the Ma'ariv, that night is when we leave the last year. It's like the elevation of the world goes up of the world goes into a sleep. The world goes into a sleep. The new and more sublime Meichin, which are then drawn down into Malchus, are far superior to the Meichin that Malchus are previous there. It creates our new light, and now a whole new energy and a greater energy comes into the world for Chachma, comes into Zah, into the 7 midas of Atzilus. Ultimately, it comes into Malchus, which when a Jew screams out HaMelech, when a Jew screams out and says, I want God to be the king of the world, I want God to be the king of me. Now you have Hamshacha, you have the concept of crowning God as king over you, and you have the awakening of Sfiras HaMalchus, the awakening of Rosh Hashanah. And that's what happens at Rosh Hashanah. But the truth is, as the Alter Rebbe is going to say right now, Rosh Hashanah is called the head of the year because this concept needs to happen every day. Rosh Hashanah just comes like a new light. And then we have to draw down every day from this new light because every day is another day of this Rosh Hashanah. Every day is another day connected to this head. And if you want to get more specific, it takes place every day. More sublime intellect from above are elicited by every morning prayer. So every morning prayer, we continue to bring down a new earth, a new light. And that's by brachas, that's with the brachas that we make. Which all brachas, also remember, every bracha you make, every blessing you make, you say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech. That's the journey. The journey of Ata, which is Ein Sof, comes into Hashem, into the concept of Yudke Vavke, which is the aspect of the wisdom of Atzilus, and then into Elokeinu, into the emotions of Atzilus, and Melech, that we bring him down as a king. Because everything that we do when start in the morning, the blessings of the morning, as you know, that the David HaMelech established that every Jew should say 100 blessings every day. And it's all part, the beginning morning davening of all its blessings that we have is a big component in that 100 blessings that we do every day. Because if you would pray from the beginning of davening, from Birchas HaShachar, the blessings of the morning blessings, until after davening Shachas, you would have a nice chunk of that 100 blessings. Because that starts all off. Self-understood, we want that when you wake up in the morning, the sages wanted you right away would crown the Eibishter, you would right away crown God, King of the world. Because why? Because you would want the first thing to be, to bring godliness to the world. To bring God to the world, a new light. You're going to the bank. On Rosh Hashanah came this new light, it was like put into the bank, and every morning you're drawing down a new light from this light. Every morning. The Eibishter who creates the world every day. And how does God create the world? Again, by me, by every single one of us, waking up in the morning and bringing God to the world every morning. So most of by Meichen are elicited by every morning prayer. And that's not it's not yesterday's energy. You're not yesterday's energy that you brought on yesterday. Today in the morning, I brought down a greater light that was not here, that was not from yesterday. It's a new energy that comes down today. It all originated on Rosh Hashanah. That's why it's called Rosh Hashanah. It's the head. It's like everything comes from the head. It all originates from Rosh Hashanah. So in general terms, that's specific. Going back to the general. In general terms, with respect to the world on a whole, and not only with regard to the daily elicitation of a new moichin, new intellect, during prayer as experienced by the individual man, we're going back to the general, during the 6,000 years of the world's existence. This occurs every Rosh Hashanah. That's the greatness. That's why it's days of awe. We should realize the power of the day of Rosh Hashanah. It's extremely a powerful day that affects the entire year. Now, going back to the original, the Alter Rebbe is going back to the original letter, the beginning of this letter. And he goes back to Eretz Yisrael. Now, if you understand this, what happens in the world at large, and now go to Eretz Yisrael, where the Eibishter says, even though I give life and existence to the world, but I have a very special connection and focus on Eretz Yisrael. And now you understand what he says about Eretz Yisrael. Tamid Eine Hashem Elokecha, that the eyes of God upon the land of Israel. Forever are the Lord's, your God's upon it. What means your eyes? The eyes are it's a wording. To the shine, to the bringing down, to the efflux and the radiance of the light of Chacham. That's why the Talmud, the sages were called the eyes of the congregation. They are the Eda. We are the sages are considered the ain of the eyes of the congregation because they're the wisdom of the congregation. Avida the Eretz Yisrael, that's what the Gemara says. That the Avida, the atmosphere of Eretz Yisrael, machkim, thus being in Eretz Yisrael, thus being in the land of Israel, you're going to get smarter. Because Chachma shines in the land of Israel. Wisdom shines in the land of Israel. The land of Israel, too, is illuminated by Chachma. I stated above, the eyes of the Lord your God is upon it, refers to the constant illumination by Chachma. Now this radiance and this concept of this bringing down of this light, even though it happens continuously every day. Nevertheless, it is not only by on one and on the same plane and level since the beginning of the world. Rather, every year there's a new and superior light. Because the light that generated, which was generated and which was shone on Rosh Hashanah this year, nostalgic, withdraws. The end of Rosh Hashanah, it goes back to its source. Now you understand what the verse says. The eyes of God, the chachma of this year, the wisdom of this year that creates the world, it started off on Mereish Hashanah, on Rosh Hashanah, Adach Hashanah, until the last day of this year. The last day of this year, Rosh Hashanah of this year, this light, this energy disappears. The verse does not state that they're everlasting, because it's not everlasting. But because the light that descends on Rosh Hashanah lasts only till the end of the year, at which time it withdraws and makes its way for the descent of a new, more sublime light. The wording of the pasuk, it says Meireshis, which is missing an aleph. It should have been an aleph between the reish and the shin, so it's not complete. It alludes to the withdrawal of the light signified by the aleph. Shemistalik b'lei Rosh Hashanah, which withdraws on the night of Rosh Hashanah. So at that time, the innermost element of the world's vitality is in a state of withdrawal through to the ascent of the Malchus, meaning the innermost core of Malchus is then in a state of elevation and withdrawal. Ad achat kiyas, until after the sounding of the shofar. Happens at Kiyas Shofar Rosh Hashanah in every community. At that time comes down a new light. A more sublime light that has never been shone since the beginning of the world. And invested itself and concealed itself in Eretz HaChaim, which is above, meaning in the Malchus of Atzilus, the source of all worlds and created beings, and in Eretz Yisrael, which is below, in the land of Israel. So you can imagine what happens on Rosh Hashanah in the land of Israel. Because everything that we have in all other worlds has to travel through the land of Israel. So for the light that animates the worlds first passes the Holy Land. It's facing face to face the Holy Land. And from there, it's diffused throughout the entire world at large. Hachis is called Meshach Hashanah Zu, in order to animate the worlds for the next year, for the duration of the next year. Agila mehesta hazeh. Manifestation, however, the light becomes concealed in the Eretz HaChaim above and below, in the world of life, in the world of Atzilus, in the world of in Eretz Yisrael. The relation of this light and the descent of the created life force in the worlds and the created beings, all depends on what are we going to draw? How much light are we going to draw today? Depends on the action below, on their merits. With Shuvas and Basheres made Shuva, all depends. The light comes down in Rosh Hashanah. With Rosh Hashanah Yikasevu, God sends down a little light. Now it all depends. What am I gonna? How much light will I receive? Well, besides how much, what am I gonna do when I said a Simei Tshuva? What am I gonna do on the 10 days of repentance? Whatever I'm gonna do in those 10 days, between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, the way I establish myself, between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, these 10 days of repentance, that's going to complete the situation of how much light will I personally be able to draw down this upcoming year throughout the entire year. So what will be the budget of light, whether it's this light ultimately gives financial, health, happiness, etc., etc. What will I draw down this year from this light? Rosh Hashanah Yikasevu, light comes down in Rosh Hashanah, but now how much will I withdraw? What will be my personal withdrawal throughout the year? And that's decided by the end of Yom Kippur. And you know, the sages tell us God sends it to Shana Rabbah, to Chanukah, whatever. He gives us time to change the amount of light that I will personally come bring down to the world, but to realize the importance of these days. But Daila Maven, as the Rebbe, Alter Rebbe many times says, this will be suffice to those who understand. In summary, divine light issued from the spheres of Chachma into the world of Atzilus that radiates within the land of Israel throughout the year, increases yearly both in quantity and in quality. Similarly, the tzedakah given in the Holy Land should be increased every year, both quantity and quality. That's what Alter Rebbe started at the beginning of his letter. That just because he gave last year $100, this year you have to give more because it's a new light. It's a new energy. And not only is it new, it's bigger. So since the light that comes down to the world is bigger, so you can do bigger. You don't have to follow last year's pattern. You always can go bigger. Ma'alim b'kodesh. Inclusion of the above letter makes it clear that this mortal initiative makes an impact on the revelation of this light. That's why it's important to make resolutions, positive resolutions in Rosh Hashanah, because that's whatever my resolution, my pledge. Talk about a pledge, whether it's money, whether it's to do good things, whether it's to learn more, daven more, all these pledges that I establish on Rosh Hashanah, and especially in these 10 days of repentance. Every pledge I can accomplish. That's why I say many times, think big. The Rebbe would say, think big. Think big in everything. Because what you're going to think on Rosh Hashanah, that will be decided. It's okay. You want to think big, I'll give you big. You want to do more, I'll give you the capability of more. I didn't have the capability last year, but this year's a new light. So therefore, you have the capability, you have the capacity to do more. So because it's up to me, I have to first to make that decision. Then I have to put it into practice. But first, I have to make the decision. And the Rebbe brings out many times a beautiful sifra of the Rebbe that decision alone is already, the Eibishter already on that decision. God gives you the capability to accomplish that decision. So that decision is an important thing While we decide on Rosh Hashanah, between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, Aseret Yemei Tshuva, 10 days of repentance, that's the time we need to make decisions for the new year. We need to go more than we did last year in all aspects of life, because the Eibishter will give us more. God will give us more to accomplish the decisions that we make and the tshuva that we do in the upcoming year. So this, the very increasing revelation of light that descends in a concealed form, is dependent on the ever-increasing contribution of tzedakah given for the land of Israel, especially for the land of Israel. And that completes the Tanya of today. I hope that you will both, we will learn the Chumash and the Tanya tomorrow by yourself as we continue to do the Chitas of the day. Today is the 13th day of the month, which is going to, with the Tillim of the day, is chapter 69, 70, and 71. So 69, 70, and 71 is the Tillim of the day. Today also we add 3 after chapters, 37, 38, and 39. So you would do the Chitas of the day. I want to wish you all a wonderful and beautiful Shabbos. God should give us all a wonderful, happy Shabbos, a blessed Shabbos. And in Mitzvah Hashem, we will see you on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Continue the Chitas. Shabbos.